waiting. Facebook usually has a little delay.
Okay.
Not to mention, I don't know if my service is going to be kind of bad down here. See what happens. Good morning, grace and peace, Kelly J. Cook. See, someone just came on, but sometimes it's like Facebook has the little lag.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you saw me waving.
Hey.
I think I already tagged you in the video. Yeah. Do me a solid, for those of you all that are coming in, go ahead and come on and share the broadcast. Invite someone to it. Keandra Hilton, grace and peace to you. It's me and Dante here.
Hey,
Lola and Dante equals love. Yeah, but we are going to talk to you very briefly. Great morning to you, family. We're going to talk to you guys very briefly about something that's on our hearts a little bit. Do us a favor, go ahead and share the broadcast. If my connection goes sour or south, please let me know. I feel like I should have logged in from your phone, because I know we're going to hit 2 dead spots. Are we close to those spots yet or no?
We're close to one of them.
I wonder, should I go out and just come back on after we get through them?
You want to? That'd probably be better.
I was going to try to honestly do a quick one on Facebook, a quick live on Periscope, and a quick live on IGTV. That's why I started now.
Okay.
What do you think?
Quick lives. Okay.
Okay, I think we're going to try to run through this live really, really quickly. I think we might be okay. Grace and peace, Fletchery, Lockbridge, Thomas, good to see you. Do me a favor, as you come on, go ahead and share the broadcast. Thank you. Appreciate you so much. So Lola here, creator of thesmokingprophet.com, a life advice site that focuses on spirituality, creativity, and culture. If you hadn't checked it out, definitely do so. And Dante.
Hey, Dante, aka that DC kid.
Yep. Follow him on Instagram, is here with me. So, excuse me. So April is actually Financial Literacy Month. And we mentioned that earlier, and I did a brief live stream about it, and then I shared a post about it, and how, like, I just looked at a lot of my generation, millennials, Dante's generation, millennials were the largest generation with households, heads of households that are actually in poverty.
Yes.
So I was like, wow, that's pretty big. Grace and peace, Apostle Nigel.
Hey, what's going on, Apostle Nigel?
Yeah, grace and peace, Sasha. So, like, our generation is the largest, you know, we had the largest amounts of heads of households that are in poverty. So I was like, okay, boom. Apparently, we don't know how to work with no money. You know what I'm saying? And it's not because we don't have the money, because what I was reading the other day, research by Pew Research Center, millennials are actually outpacing other generations in their salaries, in their annual salaries. So what baby boomers may have made at our age, we're actually making that amount. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like the money is the real issue. It's like we don't know what to do with it. Okay, so where do we learn these nasty habits from, or not learn good habits from? It would be baby boomers. It would be Gen X. It would be the silent generation, you know, although my grandparents were the dopest with money. I don't know about yours, Dante.
Oh, yeah, mine's safe too.
Yeah, but my point is, like, millennials don't just struggle in this area. All of the generations are largely struggling in this area. And the statistics I gave you were for America, by the way. And I was saying low network connection. Ah!
Go figure.
If anybody can still see me, hear me, then let me know. Low network connection. Let's see.
Anybody still there?
I'm probably not going to be able to know anything, honestly. Connection available. Okay. Grace and peace, Ricardo Lopez.
Ricardo.
Okay, so we're back. So the point I just made is that if you're just coming on, and if my service just came back in, I'm going to go through another dead spot. I'm about to hit another dead spot. You think we should just turn it off and start over?
I mean, if it went through that one really quickly, then we can just go through.
Okay, we're about to hit another dead spot. It's probably going to take us about 1 minute to get through this one, so the signal's probably going to go out. Just bear with us. We're on. Grace and peace, Stacy. We're on because we don't want to be delayed. And shout out to Shiloh Family Church in Trinidad. That's an amazing church. Their apostle is Apostle Nigel Lewis. A lot of the members are on here, but those people were genuinely warm, amazing, loving people to us when we were there.
We loved every part of it.
Right.
I miss the food.
He said he misses the food, but when we come there again, we plan to attend that church. Yes. Okay, so we're going through our second dead spot. Let's see what happens. Grace and peace, Nadia. Hope you and your husband are doing awesomely amazing and all that good stuff. So I actually think we're okay. Anyone that's on, if you're experiencing issues with the signal, just put a message down there so I can just know. Okay, so pretty much I just told you, Dante and I looked up this research. American millennials have the highest number of heads of households that are in poverty. That's terrible. But then on the other end, American millennials are also at a great place, because it's not like we're not making money. You know what I'm saying? Our income is outpacing some of the previous generations, what they made at our age. So that's really good. What it shows me is that we've learned bad money habits largely.
That's true.
And it's not just our generation.
No.
It's also other generations like Gen X and baby boomers. Grace and peace, Jacqueline Forrest. So, Dante, what you got to say on that? Anything?
Yes. So I was reading this book by Dave Ramsey. It's called Financial Peace Revisited. And I got about 2 really quick points from it, just based off reading it. The first one was, Dave Ramsey recommends having an emergency savings of at least $1,000. Now, that emergency savings is meant for anything that pops up. So something happens with the car, you gotta buy a new washing machine or something like that. That's meant for those type of situations that you don't expect to happen. It is not used as your regular savings account. So that is something you place aside. And the second point I got that I thought was really cool was live substantially below your income. So if you work and you make $35,000 a year, then you should be living in the aspect of having $25,000 a year. That way, that $10,000 you can place towards your debt, you can place towards other things in your life, or you can actually start using it to save up and do things you want to do.
Especially if you don't have debt or a lot of debt, you can start saving that money, because compound interest or compound savings is probably one of the greatest ways to gain money. And when we say compound savings, we're just talking about putting money on top of money on top of money on top of money. You're just stacking your money, essentially. Good morning to everyone that's coming on. Dante made a good point. He said living below your means. This is something that he learned from that book. Okay, so it's kind of hard for us to live below our means, and that's because we're constantly looking at what everyone else is doing, and we get the urge to want to live like other people, or live like these false images that we see other people live in, because we don't know what the status or the quality of their life truly is. And that brings me to something that I'm reading in this book that I've had for a really long time. I'm going to show it to you. It's called Love Your Life, Not Theirs. 7 Money Habits to Live the Life, for Living the Life You Want, and it's by Rachel Cruze. This is Dave Ramsey's daughter. So something that she it's the green babe. Something that she points out in the book is, let me see, wrong page. Change your thinking. If we're going to change our habits around debt, we have to start by changing our thinking. And we can't change our thinking if we're not honest about what we believe and value. Many of us don't recognize the heavy influence our culture, friends, and family have on our thinking and behavior. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It matters how much you keep. Did you hear that? It doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much money you keep. Debt actually moves you backward in your financial life, enabling you to spend more than you make. Ask yourself this: would you rather earn $45,000 a year or $450,000 a year? Grace and peace, Apostle Reggie. The answer seems obvious until you bring up debt. So obviously you're going to say, I want that what?
I want that $450,000.
Come on.
I like that money.
We want that $450,000. almost a $500,000.
Exactly.
But then she brings up this point. The answer seems obvious until you bring up debt. A person making $45,000 a year, Apostle Reggie said, good morning, family.
Hey, good morning, Apostle.
We love you guys. A year who only spends $35,000 will build more wealth over time than a person making $450,000 and spending $475,000. Did you hear that? Grace and peace, Chrissy. So a person that's making $45,000 but only spending $35,000 and carrying over $10,000 every annually is actually making more than a person that's making the $450,000 a year but has more debt than their income. Okay, their debt is way higher than their actual income. In this situation, the person with 10 times more income is accumulating more and more debt every year, while the other person is slowly building lasting wealth. You can't earn your way out of debt unless you decide that debt is something you want to eliminate from your life once and for all. So why are we talking about this? Because we're talking about the power of money. And God, number one, he wants you to have money, okay? He wants you to have money. He wants you to be able to manage money too. He doesn't just want you to have money and not be able to manage it. He wants you to be able to manage it well. But also, money answers a lot of problems. So a lot of the problems you have some money, it's going to do what?
I'm sorry, she lost my
It's going to answer those problems, and then from there, money is going to make the quality of your life better. So a large issue when it comes to people and money is going to be debt. But where does the driving force for debt and us attaining debt come from? Is often in comparison, because we're looking at people's lives, we're looking at what they're doing, and we want it. And then we go out and spend money that we don't necessarily have, and then we don't pay it off quickly, and the debt climbs, and our savings, which is where your wealth, our savings is not. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, you got something you want to say? You sure?
I'm good.
Okay. So then I read this article a while ago talking about the thin green line. It just talked about how it does not matter what you make. There is a misconception that, that was very creepy, right? Come on, give me my 450K, Apostle Reggie said. There's a misconception that you have to make a lot of money to be wealthy, but you don't. Earn what you earn, and what you're keeping is what makes you wealthy. Because you can earn $30,000 a year and be better off than the person that's making $70,000 or $100,000 if you have no debt or a minimal amount of debt. Okay, you guys feel me? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna give you like 5 tools that help to quit the comparisons based on what Rachel Cruze is saying in the book. And something else that I thought was cool last night. Do you want to tell them about the Joneses and where the Joneses lives today versus 30 years ago? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I know we've all heard that phrase.
Hey, love Jackie.
Hey, love Jackie. I know we've all heard that phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. And back in the, when it was a popular term, maybe in the 60s, it was,
we don't know, before we was born.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Long before we were born. Okay, that's fine. It was, you look at your neighbors, you look at other people, and you're like, okay, well, they have this, like they have this new lawnmower or something like that, and that's where you're trying to keep up with. Nowadays, keeping up with the Jones is in your pocket. And I mean, literally, you can check your phone for anything. And you'll see Instagram, Facebook,
come on.
And look, you'll see these amazing pictures, but you don't realize that they probably took 30 of them before they got to that last one that makes it look perfect.
Right.
So that's the difference now.
Yeah. So the Joneses are in your pocket.
Yes.
That comparison is right there, and we look at it all the time, and sometimes it's really, really hard to fight. So we want to give you 5 of Rachel Cruze's tips from this book. Again, I'm going to show you. Love Your Life, Not Theirs, 7 Money Habits for Living the Life You Want. We're going to give you 5 tips from there really, really quickly. So the first one is, 1, change your perspective. That stuff doesn't equal wealth. Do you want to talk about that or no?
Go Go ahead.
Okay, so stuff, and we're going to speed this up because it's taking longer than we expected. Stuff doesn't equal wealth. Just because someone has something does not mean that they have the money and the ability to afford it. Also, on the other end, just because they have something and you see it does not mean that they can afford it. Don't make assumptions, period. Stuff doesn't equal wealth, whether a person can or cannot afford it. Just keep it moving. That's their stuff, not yours. Grace and peace, Elder Cheryl. Love you. So wealth doesn't equal stuff. Okay, another interesting truth in this is that having wealth doesn't necessarily mean you have nice stuff. We all have ideas of what millionaires look like and how they live, but that's usually based on unrealistic assumptions or television portrayals of rich people. The truth is, people who are actually wealthy live a lot differently than you might think. The late Thomas J. Stanley wrote a fabulous book called The Millionaire Next Door. He spent years studying the behaviors of the average millionaire, someone with a net worth of $1 million or more. He meticulously reviewed their lifestyles and concluded that these successful men and women look more like, quote, thank you, Sasha, for writing that for me, regular people, and not at all like the fancy, well-dressed, well-to-do rich people you see on TV. One of the things he discovered was that the average millionaire drives a 2-year or older car. Why? Because when you have as much money as you do, you don't care about what other people think. As Stanley interviewed these millionaires, a high percentage talked about how they drove used cars, lived in modest homes. They weren't flashy and were pretty conservative in their spending. It was refreshing to read and a good reminder that, again, things aren't always as they seem. So the first thing to do on quitting comparison is to change your perspective. Stuff does not equal wealth. Don't make assumptions when you see people with stuff, good or bad. And wealth doesn't equal stuff. You don't have to show that you have something by getting something. And the next step here is to cheer each other on. And she talks about how she works for her dad's company, Dave Ramsey Solutions, and they have people that are at different stages in their financial journeys. Like some people are drowning in debt, some people are totally debt free, and some people are growing and learning and getting out of it. But at the end of the day, they cheer each other on. Yes, thank you, Sasha. Grace and peace, Prince Anthony. They cheer each other on. Something that she challenges us to do, it says, so here's the challenge. When a friend tells you about her new job, be happy for her. If someone buys a new house, show some excitement. If someone shares some great news with you, keep the focus on them instead of turning it back to you. Find big and small ways to celebrate other people's accomplishments. That's one way we get to show love and support to others. It's like the Bible says, rejoice with those who rejoice, Romans 12:15. And I love this part. She says, don't feel like you're losing just because someone else is winning. Did you hear that? She said, don't feel like you're losing just because someone else is winning. Their success has nothing to do with you. So celebrate their success sincerely while you keep working on your own. So that is point number 2 from the How to Quit Comparisons by Rachel Cruze from her book, Love Your Life, Not Theirs. Number 3 is going to be stop looking at your parents. I never thought about this. Grace and peace, Trav Irv. Grace and peace, PJ Reinhardt. It's a lot of people, your parents, like, they're doing well, right? They have nice homes. You're like, you got all this room in your house. I don't have all this room in my little starter house. Like, I don't like this. So, like, they're doing well. But she said, like, she would look at her parents and look at her dad's house. Like, this is really, really a dope house. And, like, and begin to compare herself to him. But she said this is the conclusion she came to. I needed to live like I was in my early 20s, not like I was in my early 50s. Comparing ourselves to our peers is bad enough. But comparing ourselves to people decades further along in their careers and wealth building is just ridiculous. Did you get that? So, like, your parents, people in your family that are doing, like, well, and, you know, they're more established when it comes to, like, their career, their money, their family, and all of that. Especially don't compare your life to theirs, because they got like 30, 40 years ahead of you in the game, okay?
Exactly.
All right, so we've gone through 3 steps so far. So on how to quit comparisons, the first is step 1, change your perspective, and stuff doesn't equal wealth. Don't make assumptions about people's stuff, and then wealth does not equal stuff. A lot of millionaires live modest lives and they spend conservatively. Step number 2, cheer each other on. Don't feel like you're losing just because someone else is winning. Step number 3, stop looking at your parents. Stop comparing yourselves to them because they're way further along in their journey. And then step number 4, redefine I deserve it. One of the biggest dangers in comparing ourselves to others is the spirit of entitlement it can create. We see someone else's success and think, I work harder than he does. I should have what he has. I deserve it. Deserve is a dangerous word, and it gets people into more trouble than they ever expect or care to admit. The belief that the world owes us something is why so many of us live in a constant state of dissatisfaction and jealousy. I'm going to read that one again. Yes. The belief that the world owes us something is why so many live in a constant state of dissatisfaction and jealousy. And then Rachel Cruze, the author, begins to talk about how sometimes she falls into that trap when she sees stuff online or just in her daily world going around and stuff. And then she deals with it for about 30 minutes. And then she says, no, I deserve to buy what her and her husband can afford to pay for, what they plan for and pay for in cash, because that's one of their rules. Yeah, I like that. Sasha Bain said entitlement, it's a ISSA trap. But she says that that's like one of their rules, that they'll plan for it and they'll buy things that they approve of together because they're partners, right? And that they can pay cash for. And if they don't have cash for it, it does not mean that they can't get it. It just means that they set a goal, they plan for it, and they buy it later.
I like
all right.
that.
And then the last step number 5, is own your stuff. Growing up, I always heard my parents say, it's okay to have nice stuff. Just don't let your nice stuff have you. What they meant is that we sometimes give in to the pursuit of stuff for the wrong reasons. People make bad decisions and go into debt for things they don't need and can't afford. Then once they have the thing they think will make them happy, they get distracted by something else and start chasing after it instead. The end result of this is a big pile of nice stuff with a lot of debt and misery attached. Now listen to this. The road of comparisons always dead ends at debt. Grace and peace, Mendel. Did you guys hear that? The road of comparisons always dead ends at debt. Remember, it's okay to have nice things. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a little luxury as long as it makes sense in your world. However, when you pile up a bunch of stuff and go neck deep in debt to buy it all, you don't really own your stuff. It owns you. How many people have stuff in their homes, in their closets, that you don't even really own? That it owns you because you're paying on it. Don't answer. Just think about it. Just think about it. Or like your car. You have a crazy car payment. Like we heard some statistics this morning that the average car payment is like in excess of $500.
Yep, it's crazy.
Like where you're driving a car and the car really owns you. You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. All right, now I'm going to go back to reading her stuff. The debt takes over, steals all your income, and you suddenly become a servant to the things you thought would make you happy. And then she gives this little hack of what to do when it comes to like buying stuff. Examine your buying motives before you make a purchase. If your identity and your life's worth are wrapped up in what you're buying, you are setting yourself up for disaster. And I have done this. I've done this, and I'm not going to go into sharing that, but I've definitely done this, and I had to get rid of something that was going to like drain me. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But then she goes into Rachel Cruze, the cure for comparisons, and she talks about contentment, gratitude, humility, and also learning what your values are. And when you know what your values are, that can help you stay committed to them, even through everything else. So those were just a few things from this book that I'm reading. I've actually had it for over a year, but I can't always read the books that I want to immediately. I've been reading some other books. So it's Love Your Life, Not Theirs by Rachel Cruze. And again, Dante and I are talking about the power of money this month, April, because we read that a lot of our generation, millennials, has like money trouble.
Exactly.
And the heads of households, millennials have the largest heads of households that are actually in poverty, and that's pretty major out of all the generations. But millennials don't just have the problem with money because we had to learn the behavior from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So all generations can listen to what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be telling you, not even necessarily from our own experience, but people that are like experts. I love books because books give you access to expert information without actually having to talk to them. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
You can become an expert by reading someone's material and what they've had to go through. So we hope you all have an amazing day. Remember that God wants you to have money. He wants you to know how to manage money. Remember that money will solve a lot of your problems. That's one reason why he wants you to have it. Also, he wants you to have it because it helps to establish his covenant in the earth. That's Deuteronomy 8:18. And that money will increase the quality of life for you. So everyone wants to have a dope life, right? Jesus died to give you a dope life. Go ahead and get it, but learn how to use the money that you're getting as you go, okay? God bless you too, Sasha. Stacy, thank you. We adore you and your husband. Super kind people. You got anything else to say, babe?
No. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yes, and go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Lola Kabaya. I'm going to do a live stream over there probably later on today. And follow Dante at that DC Kid on Instagram, and then follow me on Periscope because I do live streams other places sometimes and don't do them on Facebook. But on Periscope, I'm at Lola Kabaya too. Until next time, have an amazing life. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, we just released a podcast, super dope. Dang.
How to Talk to Strangers?
No, we hadn't released How to Talk to Strangers yet. What is it?
Bloom.
Oh, yeah. So we released a podcast on the Smoking Profit podcast, which is available on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and TuneIn. It's called To Bloom Where You Are Planted or Not. And I just looked at like that quote and I'm like, man, people say things on social media all the time that look good initially and then like they're not really great. But you can't always bloom where you're planted. So I revisit that quote, that well-known statement, and I just talk about what it really, really means and something that you can really, really do to help your life. Because think about it, all plants, all animals are not created to live in certain environments. You know what I'm saying? So how can you bloom in an environment that you weren't created for? Think about it, okay? And go listen to that podcast. We have another podcast coming out on how to talk to strangers, which we're super, super excited about. So I'll talk more about that one later, but that's going to be coming out soon. But in the meantime, listen to that other one, To Bloom Where You're Planted or Not, and let me know what you think. Have an amazing day, you guys. We're out. Someone said, great couple. Thank you. Someone said a word. God bless you, Sasha Bain. We appreciate you.